Hand signal me. Good evening. It's Wednesday, March 15th, 2023. Welcome to the Town of Carmel Town Board. This is a voting meeting. There are 11 resolutions, and following that, we're going to have a Town Board work session. I'm calling this meeting to order, and I ask our Town Clerk, Ann Spofford, for an attendance roll call, please.
Councilman Baranowski.
Here.
Councilman Lombardi.
Here.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Here.
Councilman Channel.
Here.
Supervisor Kazari.
Here. If everyone would please rise and face the flag, Councilman Lombardi will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just ask that we remain standing for a moment of silence to remember those men and women who are fighting for our freedom, provide us with a blanket of freedom that we live under each and every night. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank. At 6:30 this evening, the Town Board met in executive session with our insurance carrier, Brown & Brown, on a contractual issue. So, opening up to public comments. Yeah, so yes, the door didn't open on the 9/11 Memorial side. I texted the police sergeant that is in charge of that to complain. I'm very sorry that the door didn't open. If there are no public comments, then we'll move on to the meeting. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the February 15th and March 1st Town Board meetings?
So moved.
Second.
Lombardi and Baranowski, seconded by McDonough. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Our first resolution is authorizing return of bond, Pulte Homes, New York, Inc., Lot 3, tax map number 55.14-1-11.1. Councilwoman Lombardi, would you read that one for us?
Whereas the site plan application has been made by Pulte Home of New York, Inc. for return of subdivision bond posted in accordance with land subdivision and/or zoning regulations for the Carmel Center Senior Housing Terrace Drive, tax map 55.14-1-11.1, Lot 3, and whereas said application has been previously reviewed by the town engineer, and the return of the bond has been previously recommended and approved by the planning board, now therefore be resolved, the town board of Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the return of the aforementioned bond posted for Pulte Homes of New York, Inc., the Carmel Center Senior Housing Lot 3, Hartford Fire Insurance Company, bond number 59BSBEA 8755, in the amount of $2,579,959. I offer this resolution as read.
Second. Seconded by Channel. Can we have a roll call?
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, Resolution 1 passed. Our second resolution is acknowledging emergency repairs, Carmel Water and Sewer Districts. Councilman Channel, could you read that?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the various water and sewer districts of the Town of Carmel, hereby acknowledges the emergency performance of water and sewer district collection system/distribution system and treatment facility repairs as fully detailed in the memorandum of Town Engineer Richard J. Franzetti, P.E., to the Town Board dated March 1st, 2023, as attached hereto and made a part thereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Lombardi. Can we have a roll call?
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Channel.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, Resolution 2 passed. Our third resolution is authorizing extension of contract C-271, sludge hauling in Carmel Sewer Districts 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, acting as commissioners of the various sewer districts of the Town of Carmel, has previously entered into a contract with Wind River Environmental, doing business as Earth Care, dated July 23rd, 2021, with 2 one-year extensions at the unilateral option of the town, be it resolved that upon the recommendation of Town Engineer Richard Franzetti, P.E., Town Engineer, in his memo dated February 23, 2023, the Town Board authorizes the renewal of the aforesaid contract number C-271, Wind River Environmental doing business as Earth Care, for the sludge hauling services for the Town of Carmel Sewer Districts 2, 4, 5, 6, and 7, commencing July 4th, 2023, for a period of 2 years, expiring on July 3rd, 2025, at a unit cost of 17.7 cents per gallon, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes Town Supervisor Michael Kazari to sign any necessary documents concerning said renewal on behalf of the Town of Carmel, and be it further resolved that the Town Controller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Roll call, please.
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shannon.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, Resolution 3 passed. Fourth resolution, declaring certain equipment obsolete and authorizing disposal. Councilwoman McDonough, would you read that?
Sure. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby declares the following new equipment to be obsolete and authorizes disposal in accordance with town law, including but not limited to Town Law, Section 64-2-A. It's a 2004 International 4900 dump truck, VIN number 1HTWEAD-4J084835. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by Councilman Baranowski. Can we have a roll call on that?
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shannon.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, Resolution 4 passed. The fifth resolution is authorizing attendance at conference. Councilman Baranowski, could you read that?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes Town of Carmel Senior Recreation Leader Nina Kallmeyer to attend the New York State Recreation and Parks Conference on April 23rd to 25, 2023, at the Cartwright Resort and Conference Center, Monticello, New York, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel authorizes payment of reasonable and necessary expenses incurred in connection therewith upon audit. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Councilwoman McDonough. Can we have a roll call on that, please?
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shannon.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, resolution number 5 passed. Our sixth resolution is authorizing entry into a contract, Putnam County Department of Real Property Tax Services. Councilman Lombardi, could you read that one?
Whereas appropriations have been made in the 2023 town budget for entry into various contracts for the provision of various services to the town of Carmel. And whereas said contracts are on file in the Office of the Town Supervisor for inspection and review of all town board members, now therefore be it resolved, the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby authorizes Town Supervisor Michael Kazari to enter into and execute on behalf of the town the contract with Putnam County Department of Real Property Tax Services for preparation of the tentative assessment roll for year 2023, in form as attached hereto and made part hereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Seconded by Shannon. Can we get a roll call on that one?
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shannon.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes, Resolution 6 passed. Our seventh resolution is authorizing a grant of temporary parking and access easement to the County of Putnam. Councilman Shannon, could you read that?
Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the conveyance of a temporary parking and access easement over the town right-of-way, known as DeColoris Drive, to County of Putnam, said easement to be for a maximum period of 2 years, and in form and content as attached hereto and made a part hereof. And be it further resolved that the County of Putnam shall be responsible for all recording fees incurred in connection with therewith. And be it further resolved that this resolution is subject to permissive referendum. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by Lombardi. Do we need a roll call? Yeah, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilman Baranowski.
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi.
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough.
Yes.
Councilman Shannon.
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari.
Yes.
Greg, I just have one question. With the restoration of doing it, putting the property back to how it was, is there usually a timeline, or is it done like immediately after they finish the work, like say after the 2 years?
That's a good question. The easement doesn't have it, other than it's going to be restored, and this is a grassed area, because
Right.
the paved part of the road takes about half of the right-of-way up. So they're going to actually create a paved parking space, and they're gonna have to then rip up the pavement and topsoil, seed, and grade it. But it's in form and substance, so if you want a timeline in there, I'm sure that from when they complete it, I'm sure we can add it.
Okay, yeah, I just prefer that so it's not open-ended.
All
Thank
right,
you.
We could do that. So Resolution 7 passed, and we'll speak to the county, right? The 8th resolution is authorizing Mahopac Chamber of Commerce Community Event Sycamore Park. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby authorizes the Mahopac Chamber of Commerce to host and conduct its softball, wiffle ball community event at Sycamore Park on April 29th, 2023, rain date of April 30th, and further waives any park rental fee in connection therewithin, and be it further resolved that upon presentation of insurance certificates for all vendor and contractors proposed to perform improvements in connection with this authorization in form acceptable to town council, the aforesaid work may be commenced. So this is to raise money for their college, the high school kids that get the college scholarships. That's what this is, what the chamber was fundraising for. I offer this, number 8, as read,
Second?
seconded by Shannon. I guess we do a roll call.
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes, number 8 passed. Resolution number 9 is authorizing acceptance of proposal for professional services, design, and construction documents for proposed downtown Mahopac improvement. Councilwoman Shannon? I mean,
Yes.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yep. Resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel hereby accepts the proposal of Woodard and Curran, Rybrook, New York, for the preparation of design and construction documents in connection with downtown Mahopac improvements at a cost not to exceed $530,000. I offer this resolution as read.
Seconded.
Seconded by Baranowski and Lombardi. Can we have a roll call?
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes. Resolution 9 passed. Our 10th resolution is extending radio equipment rental agreement, Town of Carmel Highway Department. Councilwoman Baranowski, would you?
Whereas on February 7, 2018, Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael Simone, authorized entry into a rental agreement for radio equipment for Town of Carmel Highway Department vehicles and facilities for a term not to exceed 5 years at a monthly cost of $2,120 with Goosetown Communications, Congress, New York. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Carmel, upon the recommendation of Town of Carmel Highway Superintendent Michael J. Simone, hereby authorizes extension of the existing agreement for a period of 5 years, commencing immediately in accordance with the proposal dated March 1, 2023, and be it further resolved that the Town Board waives the application of its adopted procurement policy in connection with this authorization, and be it further resolved that Town Comptroller Mary Ann Maxwell is hereby authorized to make any and all necessary budget transfers or modifications required to fund the cost of this authorization. I offer this resolution as read.
Second?
Second by Councilwoman McDonough. Can we have a roll call?
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes. Resolution 10 passed. Our 11th resolution is amending the 2023 user fee schedule. Councilman Lombardi, would you read that?
Resolve, excuse me, resolve the Town Board of Town of Carmel hereby amends effective immediately the Town of Carmel user fee schedule for fiscal year 2023. In form is attached hereto and made part hereof. I offer this resolution as read.
Second.
Seconded by McDonough and Channel. Can we get a roll call?
Councilman Baranowski?
Yes.
Councilman Lombardi?
Aye.
Councilwoman McDonough?
Yes.
Councilman Shannon?
Yes.
Supervisor Kazari?
Yes. So what they added to the user fee was the police department is going to do a youth police camp this summer. I think they posted it on their Facebook. So look forward to more community involvement from the police department. They're doing a really bang-up job with that. So comment-wise, the Town of Carmel Parks and Rec is looking for applicants to fill 2 vacancies on the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee. Please submit a letter of interest and resume by May 5th to James Gilchrist, Director, Town of Carmel Recreation and Parks Department, Sycamore Park, 790 Long Pond Road, Mahopac, 10541. Or you can email him at jrg@ci.carmel.my.us. There is a link to email him on our website. Does anybody have comments? Nope. All right, motion to adjourn the voting meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we closing the voting meeting. Thank you very much, Ann. Thank you. Can somebody make a motion to open the work session?
So moved.
And second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So first up is our engineer, Richard Franzetti. PE Town Engineer, consider request to authorize payment of annual membership East of Hudson Watershed Corporation.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
How are you?
Tired, how are you?
I'm well, thanks. As the Board is aware, the Town of Carmel is a member of the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation. The corporation is made up of 19 municipalities in Dutchess, Putnam, and Westchester counties, and was established as a regional stormwater entity in response to heightened phosphorus removal requirements under the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation stormwater regulations. The corporation administers, coordinates, and installs regional stormwater retrofits with funding made available from the New York State Department of Environmental Protection, Westchester, and Putnam County through the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation. The member municipalities are collectively achieving compliance with their stormwater retrofit requirements through bubble compliance, regardless of the physical location of each retrofit. There's an O&M policy that was attached to your handouts where each municipality has to maintain the stormwater retrofits that have been installed or will be installed. The town adopted this policy in February of 2016. Due to bubble compliance, the town is required to pay for O&M based on the town's overall phosphorus reduction, not just those SRPs installed in the town. The East of Hudson provides the O&M for the SRPs located in town. There's an invoice attached from the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation in the amount of $21,985.02 for the O&M performed in 2022. There are sufficient funds in the budget for this expense. It is budgeted every year by our controller. Just a quick summary, the 10-year phosphorus reduction for the East of Hudson Watershed Corporation is 919 kilograms. The town's portion for 10 years is 144, or about 16% of the total. There have been 16 stormwater retrofits installed in the town, with a reduction of about 50 kilograms, or 34% of the town's total. So that's kind of where we're at overall with the achievement of that goal.
Rich, we are paying the vast majority, or the highest percentage, right, of any other municipality? In
We have the
East of
largest
Hudson?
phosphorus.
15.6%? Yes?
We have the highest removal requirement out of all of them, because we have a lot more impervious surfaces or, you know.
And we are paying the highest part of the cost of the,
Yes, because we have to pay for the 144 kilograms that we're paying for 144 kilograms, even though we don't have it all in the town, because we don't have to due to bubble compliance, but we're paying for maintenance of 144 kilograms, or the equivalent of therein.
Are we getting the most retrofits? of
No,
anybody
we're
else?
not. So we're in bubble compliance right now, so we only have about 16 retrofits and about, I think I said 50% of the, or 35% of what we're supposed to have. Sorry, 35% overall. So,
Should we be getting more?
it doesn't matter with bubble compliance. So the answer is, yeah, more is okay. It's going to create cleaner water on the grand scheme of things, but we have maintained bubble compliance with the other communities. Whether we had them all here, we'd still have to pay that same amount, or whether they're all sitting in the town of Somers, for instance, then we would still be paying that amount. There would still be
Right,
that
but our
requirement.
requirement is greater than the rest of theirs, correct?
Right, but we don't have as many stormwater retrofits within the town as we should have to meet what our goal is supposed to be, if that makes sense.
No, it makes sense, but if we're paying more, then shouldn't we have more retrofits to compensate for the increase in our cost to the town of Carmel residents and get those retrofits?
So yes, intuitively, you might think that way, but the answer is we're under bubble compliance. So again, if we had all the retrofits that were necessary to achieve the phosphorus removal requirements within the town, we'd still be paying that amount of money for maintenance. So whether they're, again, sitting in Somers, Yorktown, Dutchess, wherever they are sitting, and they are sitting all over the place right now. They're everywhere.
Are we paying more of it because of our population as opposed
It
to?
has to do with our how the size of our MS4 municipal separate storm sewer system, community, and the impervious surfaces associated with it. So we have a higher requirement because of the way our town is situated. We could have more retrofits placed in the town. However, with bubble compliance, it doesn't matter. And we would never lose anything. If bubble compliance went away tomorrow, which it's not going to, right? We would still be covered under that bubble compliance. At least that's my understanding of how the corporation is going to work.
Okay.
I hope does that answer everyone's questions, or?
I'm just keeping it in, I just want to,
I'm sorry, what?
nothing. I'm not going to say about, it's an arbitrary number. This is not based on any science. They have not come out. They don't test how much phosphorus is captured or not captured. It's just New York City decided, we've got more blacktop, therefore we should pay more money, and that makes me crazy that there's no science involved. But
I'll only counter that with the fact that there was science involved at the very beginning of this, but to support your discussion is there's been no testing to see if the water quality has been improved. So there have been a whole bunch of these retrofits put in. We're meeting with bubble compliance all the requirements of removing 1,000 kilograms over the past 10 years, right? 1,000 kilograms per year every year, right? So we're meeting that. But we don't know, so the impact was designed based on, hey, we have these heightened phosphorus requirements. The city has sampled water way back when, 25 years ago, and said, yeah, we need to do these things. The regulations got promulgated. Then they came up with these MS4 regulations with the heightened phosphorus removals, but the testing hasn't been done on the back end. They do some testing, but not to prove, we know that by science, if I put in a rain garden, it removes so much. If I put in a storm filter system, it gets rid of so much. It has to be maintained in order to maintain those removals of phosphorus. But we don't know what the bottom line impact is where they are sampling down low. And that's always been a point of discussion with member communities within the East of Hudson Watershed
we
Corporation.
don't know if our residents are doing their part and using less phosphorus,
Right, so,
because
yeah,
they could be.
you're
But we're
correct. They
paying-
might be using
We're
phosphorus-free.
paying just because New York City said that
Right.
we're.
Which,
So-
do they have any scheduled plans of retesting or sampling the water again to see if their theory is actually working or improving?
Nothing that has been reported. Again, they do sample the water, they do know what the phosphorus levels are within the reservoirs, but not to the extent where they came up with the numbers
Right,
to
that's-
drive the promulgation of the regulations, so.
Right, that's what I'm wondering.
So-
Yeah.
Yeah, like the stream up in Carmel, the last test was at 78, right? Yeah.
Right, well,
Yeah.
that's, yeah. They're using old data in some instances, correct. So,
Thank you, Rich.
thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
So, Mary Ann Maxwell, Town Controller, our next item is to review the general and highway fund balance from 2015 through 2022. Mary Ann?
Good evening. As the board is aware, the auditors are here this week and next week. I know, Steve, that makes you excited, right? You did? Okay,
Yes,
good.
we talked shop.
Good, excellent. Anyway, so they are currently, they began our audit on Monday, and they will, they're hoping to complete it mid to late next week. So this here is the fund balance for the years 2015 to 2022 for the general and highway funds. 2021 to 22 in the general fund, our fund balance slightly increased, 12.4 million to 12.8, almost 12.9 million. I did want to point out the reserve for compensated absences is going down. The reason for that is 2020, 21, and 22. Prior to 2020, we had 18 Tier 2 officers with sick balances on the books. Okay, so we had to carry those sick balances. So you see in 2015 that compensated absences was $1 million, went up to 1.4, 1.6, 1.7, and it has been 1.8 since 2019 to 2021. I think it's 9 of those officers, or 10, have retired since 2020, 21, 22. So we're able to lower that balance to 1.7 as of the end of last year. If more retire this year, their sick balances will be paid out and obviously come off the reserve. Because that balance is coming off, you see I'm able to add to the capital fund balance from 3 million to 3.25. So we're able to shift some of that money from where we don't have to hold it in the comp absences and move it to the capital fund balance. So just wanted to kind of point that out. So if those officers were still on the books or had not retired, you may see that fund balance well over 2 million, because we would have to hold that money on the books for them to retire, for them to pay them out as when they retire. So I just wanted to point that out.
Mary Ann, are all the remaining twos in the PD, or are they distributed throughout the organization?
I'm sorry?
The remaining twos, are they, you said there was 9 tier twos?
Yeah, I think there was 18. I'm trying to remember in my head. I think there might have been 9 that retired, and
Okay, so half.
there may be 9 left, or
Okay.
10 that retired and 8 left. I'm not 100% sure.
Any sense
Do you,
of what
do you know that?
department they're in?
Yeah. Do you know?
Okay, not a big deal.
I don't know. You don't know that off to your, no. Anyway, so, yeah, but, okay. In the highway fund, we're looking to increase the comp absence fund balance by 25,000. So that has remained pretty steady at 300,000, did increase to 325, 375, and now we do have to increase it to 400,000, because there are quite a bit of, I guess you could say, seasoned highway employees that have substantial balances that, we've only had 1 retiree, I think maybe 2 over the past couple years. So, okay?
I'm sure
So,
the
is
auditors
that
were
it?
very happy with those numbers.
Yes, of course, yeah, they are. Yeah, we've been able to hold the fund balance pretty steady, so I am happy with that, so,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our third item is request for proposals with IT services, Chief of Staff Ann Pasquarello. And with her is
Yes.
is
Good
Silvio
evening, Gordon.
Balzano.
Yes, and I'm going to introduce him as soon as I give you a quick
You got it.
synopsis of what's going on. As you know, with our IT provider, originally was Sullivan Data, which is a smaller company, and they sold their company to Logically, which is now servicing the town of Carmel's IT products and services. They need a 90-day notification clause of renewal. If not, the contract with Logically would automatically be renewed. With that being said, and recommendations from the Office of the State Controller, they recommend that every few years we go out for RFPs for, IT services. Being the supervisor's office took this project over, this draft that you have before you would have not been possible without the help and assistance of Silvio Balzano, who's also a member of our Zoning Board of Appeals. And this is his expertise and his wonderful qualifications, and I can't thank him enough for the preparation of the proposal that you have in front of you. I'm going to hand over the mic to him, and he's going to explain it to the board what we're looking at for the new proposal and what the town is required to do now in regards to cybersecurity and services for IT.
Thank you, Ann.
So, good evening, everybody. Hopefully you had a chance to read over the RFP as it was presented. It's funny, the job that I currently have, I'm the AVP. For those that don't know me, I'm AVP Technology for a Medicare provider in New York City. We're actually going through this exact same exercise right now of looking to replace our current, what we call MSP, Managed Service Provider, with another similar type services. Cybersecurity specifically is something that's important to me because that's also really what I do. For many years, I was the director of IT risk at Fordham University, and I continue to be the most senior cybersecurity professional at the firm I'm currently at. With that in mind, one of the things that the insurance companies are looking for is something that's called multi-factor authentication, where actually it was not originally part of my MFP. I'm adding it to one of the optional engagements that we're looking to do, which is the increasing the town's cybersecurity readiness. I actually think that's what started driving this process, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. The insurance companies are pushing what's again called multi-factor authentication. What that is something you know plus something you have, meaning passwords, as we know, are inherently insecure. So usually we have a key fob or your cell phone as a second factor of authentication, thus multi-factor authentication. So insurance companies are asking for that because passwords get cracked all the time. I mean, that's something that I get constant bulletins just on the accounts that I manage. So that's something we're going to add to the cybersecurity readiness. But the reason why I added some of these additional optional programs that we probably need to consider and do is also so we can get an idea of the vendor that we may be ultimately partnering with. We want to see what they'll provide us, what the costs will be, what their markups will be. So this is why I wanted to give it a little bit more flexibility as we were doing this RFP. And again, we have some criteria which we want to hopefully, even the playing field so that we could properly evaluate these vendors as they're coming in and bidding against our RFP. Any questions for me?
So, Sylvia, what in the RFP did you change? I saw like you added the police department, stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
so
with that
originally
other-
we excluded the police department. I realized that it needed to be there because it was all together. I'm going to add an additional change, just adding the words multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, I think that's what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was,
No,
I didn't,
absolutely.
I didn't
That's-
see that in here.
Right.
You're
We
gonna
may
put that
also
in.
tweak, yes, I'm going to add that.
Okay,
Absolutely. And we may also tweak the dates a little bit, although we're concerned about the insurance company. We'll make sure that they're okay with that.
okay,
Because again, this goes to the underwriting of our cybersecurity policy, so.
perfect, thank you. And thank you for helping with this.
Oh, my pleasure.
Sylvia, not to get off track, but to just pick your brain and your expertise, thank you for lending assistance on us, but just at a general level, implementing the MFA, is that a light touch, or, are we talking about rewiring the space shuttle?
No,
when we
it's
do
really
something like that?
rewiring humans more than rewiring anything else, because it's a behavioral change, really.
Okay.
I've done this before, again, at Fordham University. I was responsible for the MFA rollout there, or one of the people responsible for it. We have it and most people even, don't realize it, but you're using it. When you log into your bank, for example, most likely you'll get a text to your phone. That's MFA. That's really what it's all about. So, no, it's just more about reprogramming the human more than reprogramming anything else. There's a cost to it. Obviously, nothing is cheap, but we'll get there. That'll be part of this proposal. What was that? You're welcome.
Large law firms have been using them for the last couple of years as well.
And again, it's becoming more and more
Click your
part of our
phone,
lives
make
because
sure.
passwords are kind of getting compromised all the time. So,
Hey, would fobs work?
what was that?
In the old days, we had the
Yeah, you used to have
the
the
numbers
the
changed.
secure ID
Yeah.
fobs that had the digits that change every 60
Now, what
seconds.
about just having the electronic ones that we're
That
already
works,
using?
yeah, absolutely, because it's a secure key. It's almost like having the chip on your credit card. It's the same sort of thing. But most of the times, we just tie it back to your phone. I mean, that's the cheapest solution because you don't have to pay for that solution. You have to buy those fobs, you have to buy those tokens. Here, you're buying a software token. I mean,
Yeah,
shouldn't
I don't
say
know if
cheap,
we run
but-
into a union issue with using their phone. I don't know. We'll have
That
to
could be
look
a
at that.
problem. Again, if it's given as
No?
a text message,
You'll have a choice as to what device you can accept the multi-factor authorization at, so.
and what type of authorization too, Greg? I mean, we don't have to necessarily install software. It's,
So Silvio, so if I was going to check my emails, the town emails from my home computer, I would just do like the bank, I would go to log in, then they would
and then you would get
get a thing and then just put
right,
it
either
in.
push
Okay.
an agreement to your phone or put a 6-digit code in there. Yeah, that's
Yep.
the way it would.
Okay, perfect, yeah, that's easy enough.
It's really not.
It's
hard.
not, it's,
It's a two-step, two steps.
and it immensely improves the security posture of the town. So,
Perfect, thank you.
it's a simple thing as that.
So thank you so much for all the time you spent doing this. It's,
I can't thank him enough.
You don't want to tell them when I did it, do you?
no.
Okay. During the midterm, I'm going to tell you.
Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Balzano.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Any questions, just let me know, please reach out.
Michael Martin, Deputy Highway Superintendent, is our fourth item. Consider awarding bids for spring materials and supplies.
Good evening, Board, Council. Thanks for seeing me tonight.
It's just for St. Patty's Day, I'm glad that you were able to come.
You weren't sure? It's not St. Patty's Day yet, is it?
Oh, it's not yet? No. Oh,
I'm here tonight. I need my glasses, though. I'd like you guys to consider, because we have, still having supply chain issues, we'd like you guys to consider accepting multiple bids. I know you all have the bids and you saw what they were. The problem is, we have kind of a short window for construction in the summer. And we've run into with the supply chain bids that we're ready to do work, but we can't get the pipe. And we had to go to multiple contractors for that. Same thing with gravel, stone, just about anything these days. They're getting better, but we're still having those issues, and our vendors are letting us know that they're gonna have those issues. So basically, that's what we're looking for. You see the bids, we don't always wanna go with the lowest bidder. I mean, we will always try to do that first, but we'd like the opportunity to be able to reach out to other vendors.
All right, that's what I was going to ask you. I've seen multiple, which one are you choosing? But you don't know yet.
We would always go with the lowest bidder.
Okay.
First. Sometimes, when it comes to blacktopping, they can't make our schedule, so we would have to go the second bidder, because we don't have the time.
Okay.
But we would always start with the lowest bidder on everything and move along from there.
he's looking for multiple approvals.
Yeah, and Greg, that's no issue with our policy, correct?
responsible bidder is within the ones you're selecting.
Okay,
There should be the three lowest.
Yeah.
okay.
And we're
Mike?
pretty good. I mean, it doesn't have to happen often, but we don't want to get stuck where it does. Most of the time, with good coordination and speaking to them, we can get our pipes and catch basins and gravel here. But sometimes they're like, we're all out. They took a bigger order, so we'd just like to be able to get it.
Yep.
Mike, how do these prices line up to where we were last year?
They're pretty good. We had, one supplier was a little higher, but, he lost the bid.
Okay.
So he was, he's a high bidder, I should say. So, but they're not as bad as we had expected.
Okay, that's good. And just one point, just an observation. This phrase, supply chain issues. World War II, this country put 15 million men in uniform in 36 months.
Yeah, I know.
And we're now 3 years into COVID, and I'm still hearing that phrase every time there's some huge price increase, and I just don't buy it anymore. I did for the first year, maybe the first 24 months. At this point, I just think it's baloney.
I just think it's a different time.
Well, if it's a product that's sourced like fertilizer, petrochemicals, I know, obviously Ukraine and Russia are big in those markets. That I get, but other products, to me, it's just baloney at this point.
I would tend to agree.
It's just a reason to gouge, But anyway, that's my 2 cents on the world.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
All right. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
Thanks, Mike.
So our next item is a presentation from our trade union friends, Ed Cook, John Cooney, and is Dominic here, or who's? I'm filling in for John Cooney. You introduce everybody. Bring a third chair in, though, please.
So for those who don't know me, I'm Ed Cook. I'm a 31-year resident of Mahopac. I am the president of Carpenters Local Union 279. I am vice president of the Westchester Putnam Building Trades Council, and I sit on the Putnam County IDA to do some of my civic work. I had approached Mike Kazari when I heard about the DEC and the wastewater upgrade, the big plant coming in. In the town of Carmel, in my local, we have 54 residents that live in the town of Carmel that are members of my organization. I'll stay on a little later because these gentlemen traveled some distance to get here to answer any questions. But building tradesmen, if we don't work, we don't eat. Everybody hears the term union. Building tradesmen, we are in a union, we do collectively bargain, but we work for independent capitalist contractors that have to fight for the lowest responsible bid. We have no guarantees. It's not like we're a DPW worker. It's not like we're part of a highway department that's represented by a greater good through a municipality. We don't work, we don't eat. And shame on me for being a resident for 31 years and never coming before the board to have this candid conversation. We have an open recruitment, and I'll get more into the union stuff. But first, John Cooney was going to come here, and he's part of the CIC, Construction Industry Council, and Building Contractors Association. Matt Pepe represents them as well, and they commissioned a study on wastewater funding, wastewater management funding, dam repair funding, and funding sources that exist in the state that communities might not be aware of. And it's a way, and by the time we get all the way through this circle, there's a way that we can produce real conservative savings and have quality people hire locally and create real economy where the money stays here instead of going to other states. So with that, I'll turn it over to Matt.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here tonight, and good evening. Again, my name is Matthew Pepe. John Cooney sends his apologies. He could not make it. But I've been with the Construction Industry Council for over 20 years. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak about a study that we took part in with Hudson Valley Pattern for Progress over the past year. Just kind of in short, what we found is that certain highway funding apparatuses like CHIPS, the Consolidated Highway Improvement Program, and other funding processes, some of them get utilized 100%. On the flip side, counties, towns, villages, if they need to apply for a grant program to help fund certain projects, and today I'll kind of concentrate on water improvement and infrastructure projects, and I know you have some of those possibly in the works. The access to these funds, they drop off for a few reasons. Staffing. Perhaps a municipality doesn't have the expertise or sometimes just the time to fill out a grant application. I mean, I've done grant applications myself even for things that I consider myself an expert in. Some of those grant applications are very overwhelming just just to look at. So if it becomes a calculation of time, both time and money. And sometimes if there may be grants available from the DEC and the Environmental Facilities Corporation or Department of Health, and you just don't have time to make the grant applications. There's also mitigation of risk. Let's say a municipality goes through the application process, they spend the money for the application, they spend the money for the design, only to find out that the grant they're going to eventually get doesn't help enough to make the project worth it. So there's a little bit of risk there that a municipality would have to take just in order to start the grant process. Since 2017, there's been $4.5 billion in clean water funding approved by New York State. And 4 years later, at the end of 2021, only $490 million of that $4.5 billion has been used by New York State municipalities. Over the next 5 years, the Infrastructure Act that was passed by the federal government is going to add an additional $2.6 billion to that. So there's a lot of money. The money is there, but the municipalities, they need a better way to access that money. And to that end, the CIC has suggested a few areas that could be improved with legislation. Environmental planning grants. So environmental planning is a necessary step for any municipality in a water-related project. If you're a small or medium-sized town, and by no means do I consider Carmel a small town, but it's still relevant, these environmental planning grants are vital in helping with the upfront engineering work. Last year, $3 million in environmental planning grants were awarded statewide, but it's important to note that these grants are only available for wastewater projects. So we would urge our friends in the legislature to expand this environmental planning grants to from $3 million to $6 million to include drinking water projects. The goal of this environmental planning grants is to advance water quality projects to the construction phase so the applicants can use the report that was funded by the grant to finance the project through other means. It kind of mitigates the risk a little bit. The second area is in these asset management planning grants. Very important but often overlooked part of the municipal program. Just the asset management covers the entire life cycle from acquisition to operation to maintenance to end of life and disposal. Asset management, I mean, it'll catalog everything from every pump, every valve, every guide rail. So it's very important, but according to the study, only half of the communities engage in asset management planning. The Environmental Facilities Corporation ran a pilot program, and they awarded $10 million last year to help jumpstart asset management planning for a handful of communities. It's a great program, no upfront cost. The only cost to a municipality would be the donation of employees' time to get the training on how to run the asset management software. They partner with great engineering firms that do the training. All the training is local online. You don't have to travel to Albany or anything to get it. So last year there was $10 million awarded, and the CIC would ask for increased investment of up to $20 million, which could double or even more as the program becomes more efficient for these towns to effectively manage their infrastructure needs. There's just been a lot of communities that, well, they may not know about this, or they did know about it and they were not able to get in because maybe they find out too late, or they can only take a certain amount. So as an advocate for the industry, this is about putting the money to work efficiently, minimizing the risk for municipalities, and ultimately, as Ed said, it's about putting people to work. I mean, these are well-paid jobs. People make a living. They pay taxes in this area. And ultimately, it's about jobs. So I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I'm happy to answer any questions.
And do we have a copy of that study?
I do. It's 70 pages, so I didn't.
So you can email it to me,
Yeah.
and I'll email it.
Yeah. I can leave one here, but I didn't want to print out 700 pages. I'm trying to stay a little brief.
Yeah, we keep doing the WIA and the other grants, and we keep getting denied.
That is another risk. So this was a study where we went out to DPWs and government officials and highway departments, and ask them, do they know about it, first of all? And if they do know about it and haven't utilized it, why? One of the, I talked about a couple of the reasons, but one of the reasons is they don't want to get turned down. It could reflect on their ability as an employee. That's one of the, ultimately one of the reasons. So, risk of being turned down is certainly, was a factor. Like I said, I filled out grants that for things that I thought I was an expert on, and they ended up being extremely hard. That's why we have, companies that specialize in this. So this would allow a municipality, it would give them a grant to hire an engineering firm and grant services to help them with this. So it goes a long way.
So Matt, I have a question, because we do have a grant writer.
Yes.
We pay for them every single year.
Yep.
So I don't know if he's allowed to speak with them, but my question would be, I guess to him, because I know he applied for numerous grants. We were denied
Okay.
for one reason or another. And I guess what I'd want to know is if he, and Bob, maybe you can find out, is if he applied for some of the grants that you're talking about in the past,
Yeah.
and if he did, why we were denied, and if he didn't, why didn't he apply? And then also, too, is I don't understand, like, why we hire a grant writer, what we've had, and then get another grant writer. Like, because I don't want them.
Yeah,
you-
sure,
do- I-
sure. The first part of your comment, I would love to, sit down with whoever and discuss this and figure out a solution to it and what went wrong and how we can, how we can improve it. Like I said, if you're not getting grants and putting projects out, then, the union
Yeah,
employees are
what's-
not working. So that's what we're all about, and we'd love to help.
Yeah, so
in any way that we
maybe,
can.
maybe
We
you
have
can
a
hook up with
conversation
Bob.
scheduled for Monday
I don't
with
wanna
the
say
grant
hook
writer,
up,
so I'll discuss that with him.
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me or John at the CIC.
Okay,
at any
great.
time. We'd
Yeah.
love to help out.
When I get your contact, I'll reach out to you probably before then.
Some of the grants available in the study, are they listed in the study?
Yes, they are.
So there'll be more information, so we'll get that.
Okay,
study
good, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it'd be
Okay.
interesting to find out,
Yeah, they're
you
all
know?
listed in the study, and
Yeah,
And the CIC represents a lot of local, large business, heavy highway industry, building contractors. The Echoes, the ED Cruises of the world, they represent responsible employers that treat their employees well, that work with a trained professional workforce. So this grant with the CIC, it's an integral part of utilizing tax dollars that exist, that aren't being utilized, to be utilized in an expeditious manner that will, A, cut down on phosphorus, right? B, upgrade wastewater treatment plants, and C, save community and hardworking people tax dollars. And it's an investment to the future. So that's why we brought the CIC up here today, because it's an important coalition. Now, Jack represents American Global. He works with the trade unions, mainly on large projects and project labor agreements. Now, project labor agreements exist between municipalities, private industries, private business. We do quite a bit of project labor agreements in Mount Kisco, Village Hall, the library, a lot of the schools, a lot of the local fire departments. We do all through project labor agreements. Why do we utilize project labor agreements? Because at the end of the day, they save about 4 to 6% on labor. In order to do a project labor agreement, you have to do a labor study to prove that there is savings. Typically, a labor study, there's a service editor Race who works for the town of Kingston, Mount Kisco, too numerous to mention. He has a blanket fee they run about $18,000. Ed is open and upfront, where he'll tell you right off the bat, if he hears the project doesn't meet a threshold for a project labor agreement, he'll say, don't waste your time, and not bill you, right? And that's where Jack comes in. If you utilize a project labor agreement, New York State has a WICS law under Labor 220. The WICS law says you have to have prime contractors and a construction manager. Imagine building a house with a construction manager. You have no control. It's just another layer of government bureaucracy. You have 4 or 5, sometimes 23 primes, all wanting to be chief dog, pointing fingers at why this wasn't done, why this wasn't done. And then you have the construction manager that's paid to manage the project. The longer he's there, the longer he gets paid. So it's kind of a failed system. The utilization of project labor agreements, you get a general contractor. You get one person in charge of the project that can control the project and can either make the project happen on time and on budget, or if not, you have somebody that you can look at for just that reason. So utilizing project labor agreements, you get away from the Wicks law and you can hire a general contractor to have a more effective, more cost-effective project with one person in charge instead of 23 primes in charge. So when you utilize a project labor agreement, there's alternative dispute resolution, which is a way to reduce insurance costs. And I'm going to turn it over to Jack because that's his expertise. And then after Jack does his thing, I can tell you my personal experience with ADR and how well it works.
Can we all agree that insurance is too expensive?
Oh, yeah.
In order to do construction, the cost to the owner is somewhere between 7 and 10%, and it depends where we're talking about, and I'm talking of construction value. And I've been an insurance broker for a long time, and I used to be partners with Lavelle Safety Management, which is the largest workers' comp supplier through safety groups in the state fund. The state fund has always had a 50% market share in New York for all workers' comp. People used to ask me, how much should my insurance cost? And my answer used to be, well, as little as you can get away with paying. And then people try to figure out a way to pay less money. I realized that that was just what I was experiencing in the market as a young salesperson and as a young insurance broker. And I realized that the insurance system is very broken. So when I started to look at it with fresh eyes, what I saw was that that was the wrong answer I was giving. What the right answer is, your cost of insurance should be your losses plus a markup, a reasonable markup. So when you start to look at insurance from the point of view of what the cost of the losses are and how you structure the purchase of the insurance, you're not talking about 7 or 10% anymore. Example, we just finished up Legoland. It was a project that started at about $260 million, finished out at about $100 million more than that. I have the statistics here. Bottom line, the claims for both workers' comp and general liability were less than 0.25%. Less than 0.5%, not 1%. Okay, so if all the contractors coming on site are including in their bid a 7 or 10% charge, and that gets passed up to the owner, whether it's the town of Carmel or whoever it might be, how can that be improved upon? So I started to realize that there was a law in 1995 that nobody seemed to know anything about, and I started looking into it. I've been working with the CAC and with Matt's father since the early 90s. I mean, and no one in the insurance brokerage business knew about this law. So we had a lobbyist, and I said, well, what's with this law? I found out that it was sponsored and backed and passed by a gentleman by the name of Ed Cleary. Ed Cleary was the head of the AFL-CIO. So when I started to talk to Ed and understand what his point of view was and why this is valuable to you, is that what the law says is you can collectively bargain an alternative process for buying the insurance. You can, as long as you satisfy the workers' comp board that you're giving benefits that are equal to, you can have an alternative system. You can cut out the workers' comp board You can do your own adjudication of the claims. You can have a managed care network where you direct the care to doctors that achieve what we call maximum medical improvement and then return to work. So simply put, if you collectively bargain, which requires a PLA or requires an agreement with the union, so if Ed were to agree on behalf of the carpenters that they would allow this process, we could then include it in work. So what this leads to is further justification for your consideration of project labor agreements. If you engage in a PLA study and you determine that there's justification and savings, you're going to want to look at a project that's one of your larger projects, and you might look at even bundling some of your projects, because insurance works on what we call the law of large numbers. So the more exposure you can get, the better the chance of coming up with a very low cost. So if you think about it, if the cost of the claims, see, we cut the lawyers out. The ADR law allows us to basically say, lawyer, be gone.
Sorry, Greg.
Lawyers in the insurance system, you know, you all see the commercials on TV. My insurance company told me my claim was worth $50,000, and I went to whoever, and he got me $5 million. So who ends up paying for that? You. How do we work together in the context of collective bargaining and the law? Because the ADR law passed in 1995, and I've been doing this since 1996. I've done almost $10 billion of work. I have some statistics here on 3 projects that totaled $3.7 billion. Our costs are less than 1/4% for claims. So if you use my definition of insurance, it should be the cost of your claims plus a markup. You should be able to bring the insurance in for 4%, not 7%. You save 3%. You can use different assumptions. In the case of these projects, in the case of Legoland, in actual fact, the costs were, I have here 0.27 of 1%, but you know, if you're under a percent, then the markup, you gotta buy the umbrella layers, you gotta, you know, there's other expenses just to cap it so that you've got all the things you legally have to happen. But the expenses are a couple of few percent. The losses in the normal system are expected to be 4 or 5%. So if we're taking from 4 to 5% down to 1% or even 2%, what ends up happening is there's a delta of 2-4%, something of that nature. But it requires a partnership with the collective bargaining process, which means Ed and things I suspect he'll address in a moment. And it also requires that you support volume, which might mean if you talk to Ed Arace, if you talk to some people that does the feasibility studies and has expertise, they might advise you that bundling some projects makes sense. There are modern ways of doing things, and the context of the collective bargaining process with the PLA, or even we could get down in some detail just using union contractors that have the right type of insurance structure. If your basis of insurance is what the insurance company will charge to a contractor, which is close to the 10% range, you're not going to get the savings that I'm talking about. So the question becomes, how do we work together to, you know, if Ed is saying he can save a couple of percent with a PLA, and I'm saying I can save a couple of more percent with this ADR, you know, all of a sudden we're talking about some real dollars, especially with volume. So I'm happy to answer, I've been doing this since 1996, so you have to be careful. I'm Irish and Scottish, and sometimes I don't shut up.
So Jack, in your experience, has the majority of the people opted for this alternative workers' comp that you're speaking about? Like when you go and, I guess go to a union, do a lot of them opt for that? Or like, does it extend the length of time? Like say if we're supposed to start something in September, but now you have to work with the union to try to get them to opt in for this alternative workers' comp. Has it extended the time frame at all? And
You're asking a very good question, but I'm going to answer it in reality. With workers' comp, there have been ebbs and flows based on the willingness of insurance companies to take the risk. And what we have is a partnership with one of the largest, I'm sure everyone's heard of Hank Greenberg and AIG, and so when that, back in '08, AIG went bankrupt, we had a real crisis. The parent company of AIG was Star Indemnity. Hank Greenberg got in a little bit of a problem with Elliot Spitzer, and he took Star, got rid of AIG, and runs Star to this day. That's where our partnership is with Star. They will write sizable projects, and they're talking to us now to write, smaller, like we insure Echo. We did a lot of ADR with Echo just by Yonkers contracting other people. So the answer to your question is, I'm in the process, in fact, I spoke with Ed's boss a few hours ago, who I've known for a long time, Bill Banfield, Ed and I, and I've been involved in the unions. On large projects, I can do ADR, everything's set. I have an ADR contract that's approved by the Workers' Comp Board that's, ready to go. What I need is the volume and the commitment from the industry to do the smaller projects. I can do a big project. If you talk to me about a big project, I can get you a quote in no time at all, and I'm all set up and we can go. If you're saying we want to bid it out, we want to have the ADR in it as an option, and then we have the contractors that use Ed's labor force, that use the laborers' labor force. We're good with the building trades all through the Hudson Valley, from Albany south. We don't do ADR in the city, and the reason for that is the trial lawyers in the city and the unions in the city, they go about it all wrong. They're trying to get rich. They're looking for a big payday, and the way you do that in insurance, you probably know. You basically play a game and lie and use a no-fault system and use a lawyer, and you get these guys that my lawyer got me $5 million, I didn't. We'll settle the claim for $50,000. We'll get the guy well. There's something called maximum medical improvement, okay? If there's permanency in workers' comp, there's a scale that you pay off of that. But short, we're going to be paying what gets the person back to work and saves their career. Without that, they're going to wait around for 7 years, probably lose the respect of their family and themselves because they can't work. The lawyer will convince them to sacrifice their career because the lawyer's going to say, you're going to be a millionaire, but in order to be a millionaire, you can never work again. The lawyer doesn't tell them up front that the lawyer's going to take a third of the settlement and that it's going to take 7 years and that you're going to have to probably have some surgeries that are unnecessary but permanently disable you. And I can tell you horror stories, and I just saw someone nodding, and we all know that the current insurance system is broken. Can we, in the context of collective bargaining, do something better make members of the workforce whole, maximum medical improvement, get them back to work. They keep having health insurance and union benefits, and they support their family. They maintain standard of living and the respect of their family, and people feel better when they're working, as opposed to telling lies on promises of being a millionaire.
And to answer your follow-up on, it doesn't extend the time it takes to get the project underway, because all this will be negotiated. You do this, you determine the project, you see if there's a feasibility study worth having a feasibility study. Most of the time, the number's about $5 million in 5 trades to get a 4% savings on a project labor agreement. That can be done, depending on the complexity of the project, the study can be done quickly. And then within the project labor agreement, you consider ADR. 2/3 of the project labor agreements use ADR. Some of the larger construction companies have their own, they're self-insured they have their own angle on how they're gonna save percentage points. From a labor representative that represents men and women throughout the building trades, ADR does get the worker back quicker, healthier, and faster, and they're feeding their families. I haven't had one member that had gone through the ADR process complain that it was moving too slow. The converse, when they go through traditional workers' comp, you become prey, and the comp attorneys typically become the predator, and they put you through the ringer. With ADR, the goal is to get the worker back, is made whole, his family can feed his family, they can pay their mortgage, and they can get back to work. So from a personal note, ADR works, and there's a safety net. Why is this important to the town of Carmel? Why is this important to the residents of the town of Carmel? With project labor agreements, you could have a town of Carmel first or Hudson Valley first policy, where you want to take X percent you want to see, if available, X percent of Carmel residents to work on the project. X percent of town of residents join an apprenticeship program through these projects within their own town. I have 4 apprentices in the town of Carmel, which is kind of sad. I have more apprentices in Orange County and in Dutchess County than we do in Carmel. I have more economy, union scale economy, in Columbia County than I do in Putnam County. To me, that's, awkward, and we do some highway work, we do some road work. The first major project we have within the town of Carmel coming up is this wastewater treatment plant. Our union contractors through the CIC are professional. They do these plants on a daily basis. They have hired, trained apprentices and journeyman craftsmen that take continual education to become a professional tradesman. That's the difference when you use a building tradesman or a union building tradesman. You get a trained craft professional that's trained in the discipline in which they're working. So you get a trained union plumber, you get a trained union electrician, you get a trained professional carpenter. There is a difference in productivity. Why on New York State Labor 220, which is the prevailing wage law, is it important to utilize a union contractor? Well, right off the bat, there's a 26% savings, because everything is done by the cost per thousand. It's your workers' comp, your general liability, your tax. So when you use a union contractor that has a legitimate pension fund, has a legitimate annuity, a legitimate health care fund, a legitimate training fund, right off the bat, they can write off approximately 26% of the total prevailing wage. So their cost per thousand goes down by 26%. So it's virtually impossible for somebody that is not affiliated with a state-recognized pension fund or health care fund to compete against a union contractor. The law is flawed because it goes for lowest responsible bidder, right? What makes a responsible bidder? You guys have to determine that. Trade expediency, availability of workforce, work in the area. That's why project labor agreements are good for communities, because if you get if we had 50 workers living in Putnam, the money would stay in Putnam. If we were taking some of these kids that don't want to go to college and get them into a trade, a lot of the trades, my trade alone, I brought stuff here, we offer an associate's degree in construction management paid for by the Carpenters Union, by our educational trust. So you can come into the apprenticeship, earn as you learn, come out with an associate's degree paid for by the union, become a professional. Not a burden to society, but a professional. You get a pension, you get health care, you get a future. That's why it's important. Bundling projects. If you had 4 or 5 dam projects, if you loop those dam projects in, you talk about the supply chain, right? I agree with you, Steve. The gravel's made in Dutchess. How come we can't get gravel here, right? But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But if you had 5 dams, you could bulk buy gravel. You could stockpile the product you need, the reinforcing rod. You could cut a better deal on the concrete because you're buying more concrete from one vendor. It's law of economics, right? If you fall into that threshold, you put a project labor agreement on it, you utilize ADR, you might be saving, you know, 5 to 7% overall. And every percent, unless we're flush with money in the town, makes a difference, right? You offer better services. You offer better community. You're bringing professional workers in rather than bringing up a workforce from Texas. You're bringing a workforce that's locally to the Hudson Valley. Everybody kind of wins in the community when you build right, and you build proper, and you build with professionals. And that's kind of where we're at. We have a team here. Matt represents management. I represent labor. Jack represents the bridge between us with legitimate insurance that protects the worker. That's why I like the ADR. Initially, when I first heard about it, I was against it. No way, I'm not doing it. Having watched my members live through it and get back to work faster, not lose their home, be able to look at their wife and kids and not become prey to some attorney looking to make money for himself on the back of a worker, that's why I like ADR. So with that, I thank the town board for allowing us to speak.
Ed, if I may, let me just
Yeah.
interject on top of what you just said, a thought. There is a saying that you get what you pay for. And there's always a temptation to define the low bidder as the cheapest bidder. But do you really save money with that route? What Ed is talking about is if you engage at a race, you explore the value of a PLA feasibility study, he's not gonna engage, he's not gonna charge you a penny for a PLA feasibility study on a project that he's not confident he's gonna come out recommending in favor of a PLA. But where he can identify where the savings and where the value is, it's worth considering. And, you know, with Ed being up in town here and, you know, the history I have in this area with, I mean, 1991 was a while ago. The law was passed in '96. I've been doing ADR since 1996 when we did the first ADR, all across Westchester, you know, just a $10 billion of work up here. What I found is that when I initially talked to union people, they say, wait a minute, what do you mean our labor force can't hire a lawyer? What do you mean the workers, because everyone knows the workers' comp board is very liberal and they'll give away other people's money all day long. It's just that your money happens to be the other people's money they're giving away. So the point I'm making is that the ADR law requires collective bargaining, it requires a feasibility study, and it requires that it be done right. And so the unions have become comfortable with me and the organization I'm aligned with to do it right, because I will caution you that bad ADR is worse than no ADR. If you have service providers, if you have a program where you don't have the workers' comp anymore, you don't, because when I go to the insurance companies, some of them will say, what are you, crazy? You're gonna have a labor attorney replace the workers' comp board? He's gonna give away all, we're not putting our balance sheet on the line with other people making these decisions. So I can assure you that we have the track record since 1996 in this jurisdiction where we're trusted and we do consistently produce results that are way below 1% of construction value, and we then layer with the insurance companies we have very inexpensively so that the bottom line cost is maybe half of what it might otherwise be, at least a third less, 2/3 of what it would otherwise be. So do you get what you pay for? And that's a statement that you should really think about. But I know if you work with Ed and you work with the type of system we're talking about with the PLA, you're gonna get a quality product. It's gonna be on time. There's not gonna be any disruptions. There's not gonna be shoddy work. And, we've all heard it said, if you get stuff done on the cheap and then you have to bring somebody in to fix the leak and fix the problem and this and that and the other, you end up paying a heck of a lot more than if you didn't get cheap on the initial project.
Local dollars for local people and a vetted professional workforce is what it's about. And it's about saving taxpayer money and, contributing back to the community. So, again, thank you for having us. I have our course description for the community college that we were affiliated with. It's an online program. We have our first group going through. It took about 15 years to get it through and approved, but in 2 years, we'll have some carpenters with associate's degree in construction management. So thank you again for your time, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
It's Sullivan Community College. We're aligned with Dutchess Community College, and we're working throughout the region. It's actually gone into Massachusetts, it's gone into New England, and what's nice is these kids come out and zero to
End the meeting,
Yeah.
right? You gonna do that, yep.
Yep.
maybe 102. But thank you. And the nice thing about project labor agreements is
Thanks.
the municipality negotiates with the trade, so it's not a one-sided thing, and it's not a bad thing.
No.
It's actually a pretty good thing.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Safe home.
Thank you.
So,
Good luck with all your challenges, things you got to fix and maintain and figure out what to do about it.
We'll get you that study. You can email that to me tomorrow.
I look forward to it. Thank you.
All right, great.
So, anybody have
Safe home.
comments?
Comments?
Anybody have questions?
Nope.
All right.
Thank you.
Happy to answer.
So if nobody has comments, we'll be back April 5th for our next meeting. No? Yeah, you'll be here. Can I get a?
Motion to
Can
adjourn.
can I just say one
Sec-
thing?
yeah.
Everyone have a happy and safe and healthy and blessed St. Patrick's Day.
Very good. So second on closing? Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.